Why did it go wrong for Mykhailo Mudryk? Mykhailo Petrovich Mudryk was born on January 5, 2001 in a place called Berestyn in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. You see, Berestyn is a typical small town, quiet life, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. He had a close bond with this babushka, who was a devout Orthodox Christian. Faith became central to everything Mudryk does. He carries religious icons to every match. And that also explains the tattoo on his neck that says, "Only Jesus." He's also got another tattoo on his chest that says, "Dear God, if today I lose my hope, please remind me that your plans are better than my dreams." Remember that line, guys. It's going to hit different by the end of this video. You see, Mudryk's football journey started at Metalist Kharkiv in 2010. As a 9-year-old, he was head and shoulders above the rest of his class. 4 years after joining Metalist, Mudryk left to join Dnipro's academy. And then in 2016, Shakhtar Donetsk came calling. This is the big leagues. When Shakhtar calls, you just have to answer because they are the biggest club in Ukrainian football. And yes, bigger than Dynamo Kyiv. This is the club where the likes of Fernandinho, William, Douglas Costa all started before becoming world-class players in Europe. So Mudryk joined the Shakhtar youth team at 15, but he only made his first team debut at 17 against Olympic Donetsk in the Ukrainian Cup. Shakhtar won that game 1-0, and even though Mudryk played a limited role, he was officially on the radar. But here's where it gets complicated. Opportunities were scarce, minutes were hard to come by. So Shakhtar did what clubs do with young talent and sent him out on loan. First to Arsenal Kyiv, and yes, there's Arsenal in Kyiv. Of course, Arsenal fans will later lose their minds over the irony. He played 10 games there without making much of a splash. Then came Desna Cherniev, where he actually played meaningful football and helped them reach the Europa League third qualifying round. That loan spell was the first time Mudryk really looked like a player who could compete at a high level. But the breakthrough came with the next manager. You see, in May 2021, Luis Castro left Shakhtar Donetsk and the club needed someone who could match the standard, maybe even raise it. And so they brought in Roberto Zerbi, who was still fresh from turning Sassuolo into one of the most entertaining teams in Serie A with back-to-back 8th-place finishes. And this is where Mudryk's career changes forever. De Zerbi placed all his chips on Misha and vouched for him in front of the club's hierarchy. That's the type of trust that comes from a coach putting his reputation on the line for a kid most of Europe hadn't even heard of yet. And just like that, Misha was thrown straight into the fire in Europe. He made his Champions League debut against Monaco in 2021, and his cross actually ricocheted off a Monaco defender and into the net to help Shakhtar qualify. Then in December, he scored his first senior goal for the club in a 5-0 demolition of Mariupol. By December, he was racking up 4 assists in a single game against Lviv. The performances started circulating online and highlight reels flooded YouTube and social media, earning him the nickname the Ukrainian Neymar. Mudryk himself wasn't completely sold on the comparison though. He told CBS Sports he'd prefer Ukrainian Mudryk because Mudryk, in his words, is one of the best players of all time. By the end of 2021, Misha had won back-to-back Player of the Month awards in November and December and was named Shakhtar's Player of the Year. And just when things were clicking into gear, the world, as Misha knew it, shifted beneath his feet. On February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and everything Mudryk had been building came to a violent grinding halt. The Ukrainian Premier League was suspended overnight. Foreign players fled Shakhtar in droves. You wouldn't blame them. And by July 2022, De Zerbi himself had left the club. The coach who believed in Mudryk more than anyone was gone. The stability that made everything click was gone. For a lot of young players, that would have been the end of the story. But Mudryk didn't crumble. Not yet, anyway. With so many senior players departing, the 21-year-old suddenly found himself as one of the experienced heads in the squad. Think about that for a second. A kid who was on loan at Desna just 2 years earlier was now being asked to shoulder leadership responsibility in the middle of a literal war. Wow. And when the 2022-2023 season finally kicked off, Mudryk responded like a man possessed. 2 assists and a goal against RB Leipzig in the Champions League opener, then a crucial contribution as Shakhtar held Celtic to a hard-end draw. And then the Real Madrid game. Shakhtar lost 2-1 after early goals from Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. But even in defeat, Mudryk was the story of the night. His direct running kept Dani Carvajal, one of the best right backs on the planet, under constant pressure. By the end of the year, the numbers told the story. 7 goals and 6 assists across all competitions. Named Ukrainian Footballer of the Year, named Shakhtar's Player of the Year for the 2nd season running. Even Diosena, Shakhtar's director of football, publicly declared that Mudryk was the best player in Europe in his position behind Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. And every top club in Europe was now circling. Alright, so let's set the scene for what comes next. The Roman Abramovich era at Chelsea had just ended because of his involvement with the Kremlin. For me, this was just cosmic justice. So the British government forced a sale and a consortium of American investors led by Todd Burley took over. New money, new ambitions, and a very open checkbook that had already spent over $500 million on transfers. Now, across London, Arsenal were in the middle of a legitimate title challenge against Manchester City. Mikel Arteta identified the need for more firepower on the wing, and Mudryk was priority number 1. Arsenal's opening offer came in at around 60 million euros. Shakhtar said no. They wanted 100 million. But there was confidence at the Emirates that they could negotiate it down. And for good reason, because Mudryk was practically begging to join them. He followed Arsenal on social media. He spoke openly about his admiration for Arteta. He even called Arteta and Zerbi the 2 best managers in the world. Agents close to the deal even warned Mudryk not to be so public about his preference in case something went wrong. But the player wanted Arsenal, and Arsenal seemed to want him just as badly. It seemed like a done deal, but then Chelsea kicked the door with a deal worth 100 million euros in total. 70 million upfront with 30 million in add-ons that were easier to achieve and payable on a shorter timeline. Arsenal tried to match the number. They really tried, but the structure was the killer. Shakhtar needed guaranteed immediate money. This was a club that had been displaced by war not once but twice in a decade. They didn't have the luxury of waiting for performance-based bonuses to trickle in over 5 years. The final confirmation of the deal came from a photo. Mudryk sitting on a private jet next to Vedat Ekbali, heading to London. Arsenal fans were devastated. Some reports later claimed Mudryk actually cried when he learned he was going to Chelsea instead of Arsenal. And that right there, my friends, that's the first crack in the foundation. On January 15, 2023, Chelsea made it official with a deal that made Mudryk the most expensive Ukrainian footballer of all time and the biggest transfer in the history of the Ukrainian Premier League. Misha was unveiled to the crowd at Stamford Bridge during the Crystal Palace match. Beating a direct rival to his signature felt like a statement. Chelsea were back. His debut came a week later at Anfield, and honestly, it was brilliant. Mudryk's pace consistently pulled James Milner out of position. His direct running unsettled Liverpool's entire backline. But that was the peak, guys. It never got better than beating James Milner on Anfield. Can you imagine that? Chelsea paid up to £89 million for a player whose highlight at the club peaked in the very first game. What followed was a slow, painful decline. By the end of his first half season, Mudryk had only 2 assists and 0 goals in 17 appearances. Not disastrous for a January signing still settling, you can say, but the spark was already fading. Now, the 2023-2024 season should have been his year. He had a full preseason and the chance to build chemistry with teammates and adapt physically to the most demanding league in the world. But none of that seemed to work, because in 31 Premier League appearances, Misha had 18 starts, 5 goals and 2 assists. These numbers are horrible on paper, but they even look worse with the eye test. Mudryk was shocking. His decisions in the final third was rushed, his passes went astray, and his shots constantly found the stands. Rosie, the player who had terrorized Carvajal at the Bernabeu, was now struggling against mid-table fullbacks. His first competitive Chelsea goal didn't even come until his 24th appearance in the match against Fulham in October 2023. He followed that with a long-range screamer against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge and a dramatic stoppage-time equalizer against Newcastle in the League Cup. Flashes of quality, sure, but never enough consistency to silence the doubters. But here's what people keep missing. You see, Mudryk didn't arrive at a functioning club if we look at it. He arrived at Chelsea during the most chaotic period in the club's modern history. In his time at the club, Mudryk has played under Graham Potter, an interim Frank Lampard spell, Mauricio Pochettino, Enzo Maresca, and now Liam Rowe Sr. That's 5 different coaches in barely 3 years. 5 different tactical systems, 5 different ideas about where Mudryk fits. 5 different ways of building confidence. Or in Mudryk's case, 5 different ways of destroying it. Off the pitch, the weight followed him everywhere. Criticism from fans online, isolation in a new country, the ever-present shadow of a war still raging back home. He was a 22-year-old, thousands of miles from everything he knew, playing for a club that couldn't even decide who was in charge. Across all competitions at Chelsea, the numbers tell a painful story. 73 appearances, 10 goals, 8 assists. For a player who cost up to £89 million, those figures are brutal. And just when things were starting to look up, everything fell apart again. When Enzo Maresca arrived in the summer of 2024, there was a genuine reset. Mudryk saw limited Premier League action but was trusted heavily in the UEFA Conference League, where Maresca placed real faith in him. And the response was genuinely encouraging. He bagged 3 goals and 3 assists in 4 group stage matches. He also scored in his last appearance in a 2-0 win against Heidenheim. It felt like Misha was finally about to deliver on that enormous price tag. Then, everything came crashing down one last time. In December 2024, reports broke that Mudryk had failed a routine urine test while on international duty with Ukraine. The substance found in his sample was Meldonium, a metabolic modulator that has been banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency since 2016. If that name sounds familiar, it should. Meldonium is the same substance that brought down tennis star Maria Sharapova back in 2016. It was originally developed in Latvia and is widely used in Russia and Eastern Europe to treat heart conditions. The FA handed Mudryk a provisional suspension immediately. He was cut off from the squad and banned from Cobham. His season was over in an instant. But the story of how Meldonium got into his system, that's where things get truly wild. Mudryk denied taking any banned substance from the very beginning. He released a statement on Instagram saying, "This has come as a complete shock. I have never knowingly used any banned substances or broken any rules." He even took and passed a polygraph test, which showed he believed what he was saying. To be fair, we all know polygraph tests are bullshit. And then a fascinating story emerged from Ukrainian journalist Igor Bobas. According to the report, while on duty with the Ukrainian national team, Mudryk was experiencing physical discomfort that was preventing him from playing at full capacity. To help with recovery, he received a stem cell injection designed to promote tissue regeneration. Igor Porobia, the physiotherapist of the Ukrainian national team, administered the injection. And here's the kicker. The stem cells were reportedly derived from a cow that may have been exposed to Meldonium. A cow! The theory is that contaminated bovine stem cells introduced a banned substance into Mudryk's system without him ever knowing about it. Shakhtar sporting director Diosena publicly backed Mudryk, saying the club doesn't care about the potential £30 million in lost add-ons from the transfer. He believes that Misha is 100% innocent. But the FA formally charged Mudryk in June 2025 after his B sample also tested positive. He now faces a potential 4-year ban from all football. His legal team is still fighting the case. As of February 2026, the case is still unresolved. Mudryk has been stuck in limbo for over 14 months. He's not allowed anywhere near Cobham. His number 10 shirt has been given to Cole Palmer, and he reportedly watched Chelsea lift the Conference League trophy against Real Madrid in May 2025 from the stands in a private capacity, wearing a black durag and jacket. That image alone tells you everything you need to know about where Misha Mudryk is right now. Now, because the story wasn't already bizarre enough, let's talk about what happened just a few weeks ago. Whilst having his football suspension, Mudryk has been passing the time playing Counter-Strike 2 on Faceit. But during one match against Polish players, an opponent taunted him about his doping case with something about the lines of, "Bro, do more drugs." Mudryk lost his cool and responded by making offensive references to the Volhynia massacres during the World War II, a deeply sensitive and painful chapter in Ukrainian-Polish relations that resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of Polish civilians. Faceit slapped him with a 28-day ban for toxicity, and just like that, Mykhailo Mudryk became the only person on earth who is simultaneously banned from professional football and competitive Counter-Strike 2. Okay, you genuinely cannot make this stuff up. So where does Mudryk go from here? Chelsea has moved on. During his absence, they've signed Alejandro Garnacho, Estavo, and Jimmy Gittins to fill the wide positions. The left wing belongs to other players now, and competition for those spots is fiercer than ever. New manager Liam Rosenier has said publicly that he considers Mudryk a magnificent player and wants to have a conversation with him when the time is right. But that felt more like a diplomatic kindness than a concrete plan to build a team around him. Reports from multiple outlets suggest that if and when Mudryk's ban is resolved, Chelsea's plan is to send him to Strasbourg. His return to top-level football might not happen until the 2026-2027 season at the earliest, and even that timeline feels optimistic. On New Year's Day 2026, Mudryk posted on Instagram asking fans not to give up on him. He wrote, "I see all your messages and truly appreciate them, so please don't give up on me as I won't give up on myself. Can't wait to see you soon." A few days later, Chelsea publicly wished him a happy 25th birthday. A small but notable gesture, given that the club didn't extend the same courtesy to other frozen out players like Raheem Sterling. And then there's the bigger picture that makes the whole story so much more than just football. You remember that tattoo on his chest I said you should hang on to? That says, "Dear God, if today I lose my hope, please remind me that your plans are better than my dreams." Mykhailo Mudryk has lost a lot of his form, his place in the team, and the freedom to play the game he loves. Maybe even his reputation. Football has a way of rewarding persistence, and Mudryk's story isn't over. Not by a long shot. The question is, will anyone still be watching when the next chapter begins? If you enjoyed this, smash that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell us, do you think Mudryk can make a comeback? And check out our video right here for more stories like this one.